I decided to do my podcast about the Black Panthers Party's free community programs and their ongoing impact or lack thereof. I'll start off by saying I believe that the Black Panther Party set the tone for how we should conduct and reconstruct our own Black future initially, but also setting the tone for other minority communities to follow suit so we can build a more inclusive and cooperative future. But I believe the amount of community, well, maybe not the amount, but the quality of community programs have gone down or they have been more limited in terms of availability. And while I do know that the Black Panther Party's community programs have had issues of availability as well, however, they did work to provide services for those who cannot make those time slots and would work with the community to be able to provide for them in whatever ways necessary. So that's my thoughts before I get into the rest of my slides. And my slides will have descriptions, notes. I will be reading some verbatim, but also I will be providing critical commentary from each slide. Here is my first primary source, and I wanted to focus on the 10-point program, specifically the 10th point, because I believe it is essential to how they built their community programs, and you can pause to read this if you would like to. But I believe what stands out to me is that they emphasize the need to rebuild their own services, communities, programs, whatever they need to do that the federal government is not efficiently serving them. Because as we all know, especially reading these books throughout the semester, the federal government has provided inefficient and insufficient, mainly underfunded programs, and would prioritize their ideals that pertain to white success over success for all Americans. So with the 10th point being provided, it allowed the Black community specifically to imagine what they can do service-wise, community service-wise, how they should rebuild their own future, and they gave them the freedom to even think like that and also perform those services. My next slide, Black Panther Party, the Free Breakfast Program. I chose this second primary source document because it shows the purpose of the free breakfast program, and I do know that they also provided a free food program that helped all members of the Black community, not just children. But with this program, they emphasize the importance of a nourished mind and body before they go on and advocate for the Black Panther Party, for the Black community, for their own goals to better themselves. Because if you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of a larger community, especially yourself? And I will read this quote from a journal article I found about the free breakfast program. The free breakfast program met the essential survival needs of the Black communities through direct assistance, because as opposed to federal government assistance, the federal government would doesn't take the time did not take the time to adhere to the Black community's needs, and did not listen to their opinions, especially when it came to revisions or critiques, because the federal government thought that they provided everything necessary in order to not better the Black community, but they're doing the bare minimum for them, if that makes sense. So the free breakfast program could not have survived and sustained without collective support, especially from Black women. They would usually lead and organize a majority of the free breakfast programs. I believe that was in Farmer's book. And they, as opposed to a lot of previous organizations, the Black Panther Party worked internally within the capitalist system by collaborating with Black-owned businesses so they could continue to receive funding and advocacy for these programs, because we all know without money, a program cannot survive on its own. And community, of course. So I would like to talk about the normal anomaly, and I am going to go past 7 minutes because this topic deserves more than 7 minutes. So the normal anomaly, their mission statement right here, centering Black, queer, plus persons to overcome barriers and stigma and problematic narratives to actualize a new normal. And I believe this is how they work towards their ideal Black future. And in the Black Panther Party, we know that their ideals and values evolved and changed within the organization's tenure. And at first, it was a very male-centered, male-dominated, almost it was sexist. I remember there was a quote degrading, like, from a Black Party Panther member, like, degrading Black women and kind of stereotyping her as, like, overly sexual and provocative and things like that, and that she needs to stay in her place. But however, back to this, they were also not very not very vocally supportive of the LGBTQ plus community. And over time, they evolved and eventually included the acceptance of the LGBTQ plus community in their, I don't want to say mission statement, but in their values and ideals. And if you don't agree with that community, then you have no place in the Black Panther Party. So I do want to note that. So I believe with that evolution, it also gave people the idea, like, okay, we are now, or for LGBTQ plus people, we are now included in this fight. How can we all work together for our vision for a Black future to be implemented? And in their mission, and in the Normal Anomalies vision statement, my apologies, to see the forward mobility of Black queer plus persons. And that's how they envision a Black future, where, going outside of the Black community, minority queer people are essential to a positive, productive future. And their service programs involve Black Queer Plus Healthcare Navigation Program, Black Queer Plus Transportation Program, where they have free transportation services available for Black Queer Plus people, and Healthcare Navigation Program for low-cost or free healthcare guidance, peer service for queer Black men, and Hush self-testing and Prep Her. And that's That is what is listed on their website. But however, I do want to critique that there, I believe, in my opinion, these are limited services, and there could be more initiatives and programs implemented in their organization in order to provide their ideal Black future. And with the free breakfast program, you do not see a lot of free food programs around anymore, except the Cougar Cupboard, which is located in the lofts. But there are restrictions, you have to meet guidelines. And they're not strict if you're a student here, but and you could also get them for your families. However, you have to attend U of H, so that is limiting in that sense. And so with the free breakfast program, I believe if we were to encourage a mindful nourishment of minority bodies, then we allow ourselves to prosper. Because the infamous saying, health is wealth, I believe that is very true. AHF Wellness Center, this is a very popular, or like this is a, I don't want to say popular, but they have provided free STD and HIV testing for almost 40 years. There is a location near Out of the Closet on Westheimer in Montrose that has a pharmacy room and testing rooms. I've been there myself. However, I believe the time slots and availability is limited, and you do have to schedule time out of your day in order to make this. And even if you are, let's say you work on Monday through Friday, you're off on weekends, sometimes you don't have either the transportation or the means to get there, so it is restrictive in that sense. However, they do pop-ups at events to spread awareness. I participated in an event recently where I DJ'd, and they had a booth at the event, and it was a 2-day event, so people were able to come in even on their even during hours where they do not usually operate. And they have a truck to provide testing at events. Most recently, we had the AHF truck come to campus for HIV testing, and I participated in that. Similarly, the Black Panther Party provided healthcare at their respective locations that treated a multitude of issues. This comes from Nelson's book, and they had mobile medical units to treat patients who could not make it to a physical location. And I love the idea of this because, and I love the idea of AHF in general because I believe they provide similar care and treatment as the Black Panther Party's free healthcare programs, and their use of a mobile vehicle in order to provide these services is essential because, like I said, people have transportation problems, so this is great. But in opposed to the Black Panther Party's mobile units, I believe the AHF's mobile units are more limited, they are less frequent, and I think that needs to be improved. So, going back to the lack thereof, this is the lack thereof. And finally, the last example I will be talking about is the Class Bookstore. The Class Bookstore is a Black-owned bookstore founded by a Black couple, and they emphasize the necessity of education and learning through their reading events. They have book clubs. They promote literacy in the Black community, and it is located in 3rd Ward, I believe. So, even though, let me rephrase, I think it is only restrictive in the sense that they are in a specific location in Houston. It is not accessible to the greater Houston area. And they have online services. They have, you can buy books online. They provide information online, which is readily accessible. And that is a very great thing. However, not however, allowing or class allowing themselves to provide information outside of their brick and mortar location and to anyone in the Third Ward community, they push that drive for wanting to building minority knowledge in specific. They provide books on Black history, Black contemporaries, Black subcultures, etc. And I believe this is a great resource for anyone. I believe it is a better resource for those who reside nearby class. And like I said before, there is great knowledge, or like there is knowledge to be obtained outside of living in this community. However, it is still restrictive in that sense. So here are my citations, but overall, I believe that mutual aid, I will say this right now, mutual aid is the primary source for accessibility for minorities in all aspects. Without mutual aid, a lot of people would not be able to not only receive the care they need, whether it's health care, having groceries for the week, having gas for the week, but it fosters a sense of community in that there are people out there who want to see you thrive. And they will do whatever means necessary in order for you to have a great future. And it is amazing also, and at the same time, it is a little bit depressing because we cannot rely, and we have never been able to rely on the federal government in order to address our primary needs. And everybody's primary needs are different, if that makes sense. And even with federal funded services like SNAP, for example, and Medicare, stuff like that, it provides the bare minimum and even less. It is still insufficient. It's insufficient for a lot of community members, especially minority community members, to this day. We have to rely on, once again, mutual aid in order to prosper and be the best version of ourselves. And we need to put more effort into community services, local community services, as opposed to national community services, mirroring the Black Panther Party's programs in larger numbers, especially in nutrition, especially in healthcare. It is sparse. It is very sparse, and it is very hard to find information and accessibility to those services and resources. And I believe if we provide more education, if we used not just social media, because not everybody is on social media, if we provide physical resources outside of people's neighborhoods, communities, then I believe that we can have a better outreach, and we won't have this lack thereof of efficiency and quality and even quantity of effective community services and programs. So I believe if we draw upon the Black Panther Party's programs and guidelines, even if you have a chance to look into Latif and Androff's journal article, they have provided guidelines as to how to build a community service program, and that usually requires a team. So communal or community effort, uh, collaboration as well, because we all know progress is gradual, especially in a capitalist society. So if we all were with each other as more than against each other, then I believe we allow for a better Black future that includes everybody. All right. Thank you. I really enjoyed this class, and I am not the best at public speaking, but I hope that this gave you an idea as to what I envision and what I hope